Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and today the Houston Texans lose to the Carolina Panthers 15-13. Carolina Panthers get their first win of the season as they go to 1-6. The Texans fall to 3-4. This was a tough loss for the Texans. I mean, this would have been a great win for the Texans. They would have easily gone to. They would have had a great lead at second place in the division, but now. They're tied with the Titans, and the Colts, I believe, now are 3-5, something like that, I think. So the Texans are at last place in the division, but they could have been second with this win, and they could have been a little close with the Jaguars, but now they just even dig themselves in an even deeper hole. And not only that, but Texans could have been over plus 500 for the first time since 2019 or 2019 with this win, or the 2019 season, but 2020. The Texans, theoretically, their last time they were plus 500 was in the 2021 season, but that was only over after week one. The Texans won week one against the Jaguars that year, 37-21, but who's going to really count plus 500 after week one? That's only one game. This is 7 games into the season. So, yeah, the Texans did have a chance to get plus 500 today. And they didn't do too bad in this game. I mean, they had a touchdown in the third quarter, C.J. Stroud, and went for the 2-point conversion. They failed and had a 1-point lead throughout the game. But, man, that two-minute offense, terrible. I mean, the Panthers went on an 86-yard drive, 6 minutes and 17 seconds, and the Texans just couldn't get a stop. They had a couple third downs, too. Just couldn't get a stop. And the Texans lose this one 15-13. It's just really disappointing as a Texans fan. All right, scoring summary. Texans scored the first touchdown. There wasn't a score in this game until the second quarter. Andrew Beck had a 1-yard touchdown on the fullback at 7-0. Then Bryce Young throws a 1-yard touchdown pass to Tommy Tremble. So tight ends and fullbacks being involved. And the extra point was no good, and it's 7-6. Then, third quarter, a couple field goals for Eddie Pinheiro, 46 and 37 yards. It's 12-7. So now the deficit is 5 for the Texans. But C.J. Stroud then has a 1-yard touchdown run, and the Texans take the lead 13-12. They go for the 2-point conversion, trying to get the 3-point lead. And then Frankie Lavu had a pass deflection, which if he wasn't there, would have been a completion to Dalton Schultz. And the Texans failed the 2-point conversion. Panthers got the ball back. I think the Texans stopped them on their next drive, but the Texans were never able to score the football again. 13-12 for the Texans right there. That was it for the Texans scoring. Then at the end of the game, Eddie Pinheiro with the 23-yard field goal to win it, 15-13. I'll tell you what, this game reminded me just like the Falcons game the Texans played in Week 5. Offense couldn't get going. This was a game just like that, just a little bit less scoring. That final score, the Texans lost 21-19. This one, the Texans lose 15-13. So it reminds me a lot like the Week 5 game with the Falcons, and 2 games like this against the Falcons and the Panthers where you lose by 2 points in both games, 15-13 and 21-19. It's just those are 2 games you should have had, and 2 games you wish you had back, but that's the NFL. Our game leader, C.J. Stroud, 16 for 24, 140 passing yards. Bryce Young, 22 for 31 through 235 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. This is supposed to be C.J. Stroud's revenge game. Although the Texans were not passing the ball as much as they have been doing, and the Panthers had the ball way more than the Texans did too. Rushing yards for the Texans, Dameon Pierce, 12 carries, 46 rushing yards. Chuba Hubbard for the Panthers, 15 carries, 28 rushing yards. Receiving yards for Noah Brown, 3 receptions for 57 receiving yards. Adam Thielen for the Panthers, 8 receptions for 72 receiving yards. Getting into some other stats, I mean, yeah, the Texans, like I said, the Texans ran the ball a lot in this game. Had 22 carries combined with Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary had 10 carries for 30 rushing yards, and Tank Dell had 3 carries for 15 rushing yards. So this Texans team, with other players besides C.J. Stroud, also they ran the ball one time with Mike Boone, and 2 times with Andrew Beck. So 2 carries for Beck, 1 carry for Mike Boone, 3 for Tank Dell. Texans had 6 carries with other players, and then their running backs 28 total carries in this game. And they ran the ball. If you add C.J. Stroud, they ran the ball 30 times in this game. Ran the ball 30 times for 110 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So I look at Stroud and his poor passing performance, only throwing for 140 passing yards. But then I remind myself, okay, this team is running the football a lot than they've been doing in the past. The Texans have not been running the football this much in their prior games. 30 carries is a lot for the Texans. So, it looks like a bad performance for C.J. Stroud, but I really don't think it was. All right. Besides Chuba Hubbard, Bryce Young ran for 11 yards. Besides Noah Brown, Nico Collins, 4 receptions for 30 receiving yards. Tank Dell, 3 receptions for 16 receiving yards. Devin Singletary, 2 receptions for 13 receiving yards. Mike Boone had a really nice catch for 11 receiving yards on a third down to get the Texans a first down. It was a really good play by him. And then besides Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, 4 receptions for 62 receiving yards. Fumbles, Andrew Beck did fumble on a reception for the Texans, and it was recovered by Xavier Woods. That was like midfield too. That was a terrible loss for the Texans. Their defense actually had one of their best days on defense. I mean, 6 sacks for the Texans. I don't even know if the Texans have had 6 sacks all season. Texans have probably just had it around there. The Texans have probably had 8 or 9 sacks throughout the regular season, but the Texans had 6 today. 2.5 sacks for Jonathan Grenard. He looked great. 2 sacks for Malik Collins. A half a sack for Denzel Perryman. And the others go to, I think that was it. You had 4.5, 5. You have one more, and that other sack went to Blake Cashman. Texans had a total of 9 tackles for loss. Denzel Perryman had 1. Malik Collins had 1. Jonathan Grenard had 2. Blake Cashman had 2. Jalen Petrie had 1. Will Anderson Jr. had 1. And Khalil Davis had 1. No interceptions in the ball game. Leader in tackles for the Panthers. 1 sack for Frankie Lavu with 2 tackles for loss and 12 tackles. They only had 2 sacks in this game with 5 tackles for loss. So the Texans' defense was way better. Texans' defense had a way better day. They had more tackles. They had more sacks. They had more tackles for loss. I just think at the end of the day, what killed this Texans defense is 2-minute defense. End of the game situations defense. The Texans have been terrible in those situations in Week 5 against the Falcons and now Week 8 against the Panthers. So it's really a shame for the Texans. That's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts and peace out. Go Texans.